Well, I don't know those people, and that's okay. We're a family in here today. We're going to be a family in here for about the next 10 weeks. But you kind of walked in here going, what am I getting myself into? I saw this video, and I kind of like Jason, and, so I'll go see what all that's about. Well, guess what? You don't get Jason the first day, you get me, so tag, you're it. So you got to kind of like me a little bit. But you kind of walked into something going, this is not Sunday school. We're supposed to, learn about Jesus loves me and all of that. Well, he does through this, okay? Your everyday life, he's there with you, and we're going to learn how to take that and make it be where you can live the fullest. Because everybody knows every day we walk out there, we're at our fullest, right? Anybody besides me, we're walking and everything's perfect. Nothing comes around and out of our way. Everything's perfect, right? No. Every day something's going on. So we're going to go through all this together. We're going to go through it together. So after our session's over with, hopefully in about 10 weeks, and you may, wow, it's a long time. No, it's not. Y'all grab your book as you come in. This is something that's going to help. I promise you it'll help. I've seen it help too many people already. I've seen it through the other parts that we have done. It helped so many people, and it's going to help you. So as we do that, here's the thing to kind of think about, and you're sitting there going, well, does it really affect me? The Sidran Institute says 3 out of 4 adults have experienced a traumatic event in their lives, and most of them will never truly heal. 3 out of 4, and mostly will never heal. And you're saying, wow, but I thought I healed. And you may have to an extent, or you may not at all, but we all will. You will. Because you're here today and starting this, good morning, starting this journey with all of us together, and we're going to get through this, because guess what? You're taking action, right? So we're going to talk about that. So you might be thinking, I've experienced some painful things, but I'm not sure I could classify them as traumatic. We've gone through some stuff, and that's normal. In fact, it's, partially what makes trauma so destructive. We sit there and go, that's just, I've lost a loved one, and that's just normal. That's normal life. But it affected you, right? I've been sick, for a long period of time. I've had cancer. You can fill in the blank there. And it's affected you. And you say, well, that's just the normal life now. I'll be okay. But you want to be able to live the fullest through that, right? And that's how to learn how to do it. And we can't do it unless we learn it and know it. So what I want to ask you right now, and this is one of those kind of questions that they want, that we ask is, what do you hope this course will do for you? Offer just a little bit of glimpses that you may have heard, the video that you saw, the things that were talked about, maybe just a little bit what I've shared already. What do you think this series, the Sunday School series, will do for you? Anybody? Help deal with it. Healing?
Not the only one.
Not the only one. Look around. You're not the only one. Right? So that's what it's about. In its most simple definition, trauma is a deeply disturbing or distressing experience or series of experiences. It's deeply disturbing or distressing experience or series of experiences. If you've been abused, whether it's been mentally, physically, sexually, spiritually, you've been neglected, you've lost a loved one, survived a natural disaster, or even lived in the close proximity to someone that's experienced this trauma, that's why we're here. Because all of us have. Every one of us have. God just didn't make you where you are right now, plop you into this world, and never gone through any kind of loss at all. Right? So you've experienced that. You've dealt with it. You've been able to overcome some things. You might have been able to get past some things, but there's still some things there that, especially this last year and a half, oh my goodness, has been awful. And in that, just that in itself, the craziness of the world. I mean, when we shut down our church for, 12 weeks, because of not the uncertainty of everything. The uncertainty of life today is what, is really bad. The thing is, trauma is subjective. You may feel like what you've experienced as, was traumatic, and it probably was. But then you might feel like, it wasn't that bad, and you downplay it, and you kind of put it back on that shelf. And I always try to reference this. You got a shelf in the back of your mind, those old wire rack shelves, go in your closet, and you keep putting stuff back on that shelf. Anybody ever woke up in the middle of the night, heard this crashing sound and don't know what it is, just to walk into your closet and find all your stuff on the floor? That's why I reference that, because everybody pretty much has experienced that, right? Because your shelf couldn't hold anymore. The trauma that you keep putting on that shelf, it's not going to be able to hold everything. And so we're going to learn how to offload that stuff and send it to Goodwill where it needs to go, in a manner of speaking. But to be able to acknowledge or label something as traumatic, we got to come to grips with the reality that what we experience isn't normal. It isn't normal to suffer abuse or neglect at the hands of another. It's not normal for all your stuff to get burned up in a fire, or a tornado to come and destroy everything, and you're having to sift through your possessions of what's left. It's not normal. It's not normal for you to have to raise your baby brother at the age of 12 because you're it. It's not normal that you had to experience, alcohol or drug abuse at a young age and see the effects of it. That's not normal, right? It's not. But when we dismiss or excuse it and try to make up an excuse for it, when it's a regular part of our life, we deny the impact on us that it has on us. And so therefore, guess what? We put it on that shelf. And that's where it starts. So by doing so, we risk incorrectly assigning blame and misdiagnosing cause of our struggles. On page 7 in your books, and the pages are not necessarily in order, because you go, well, this is not page 7, this is on like page 3, but just on page 7 in your books where it's listed there, there's some bold type up there in about the middle of the page, and it says, we focus on symptoms rather than sources. We focus on symptoms rather than sources. So these are your books, you write in there, and if you got something you want to write along with it, guess what? That's what you need to write. We focus on symptoms rather than sources. Then the next one, we look for remedies instead of getting to the roots of the problem. We look for remedies instead of getting to the roots of the problem. The root's going to grow what the root's going to grow. And if it's bad roots, what kind of fruits is it going to produce? Bad fruits. So we got to fix the roots. We got to fix the roots that are causing some of the trauma that you've been going through, some of the stress that you've been going through that's been dealt to you. And the next one, you'll see, trauma will remain empowered to cause us harm as long as we deny its existence. Y'all see that? Trauma will remain empowered to cause us harm as long as we deny its existence. Now let's do this. Take that word trauma out of that. Y'all know the little three-letter word we can write right there? Sin. Just think about it on that way. And this is free. It's not in this book at all. It's just when I was studying this, I went, wow, sin will remain empowered to cause us harm as long as we deny its existence. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because guess what? Old Slewfoot, Satan, and you'll see this reference, as we go forward. He likes to kick us when we're down. He likes to keep us down through trauma, through everything else. If it's a sin that we've done, he wants to keep that on top of us. If it's trauma that we've, had put on us, he wants to keep that on top of us. He don't want us to succeed. So that's what we have to do. We have to, realize it for what it is and get through it. But here's the thing. If we acknowledge our traumatic experience, that they're not normal, and protest their injustice, only then can the healing process, begin. Trauma harmed us, and we need to condemn it. Hey, it's there. And you can think about the things that have affected you in your life. It's there. And you got to go, nope. I might have, not labeled you right to start with, but guess what? We're going to fix this. But many times what happens is we condemn ourselves because of the trauma, or instead of the trauma. With this sense of condemnation becomes the words that we frequently hear and use: guilt, shame, regret, and despair. That's what happens. We take it, we frame it to that on us. We condemn basically ourselves because of the trauma, and we start in those condemning words of guilt and shame and all of that is where it starts burdening us down. But understand this, what you are experiencing currently is a common reaction to an abnormal event in your life. You remember me reading those things, what isn't normal? You've experienced something abnormal in your life, and you've just got to learn how to process it and work through it. And here's the thing, and this is so true. No one expects you to handle it any better than you are, except for maybe yourself. Everybody else thinks that you got this, but you're sitting there going, no, I'm failing. I'm not handling this. I'm not doing it the right way. And this stuff is not a one-size-fits-all approach. And so it's, the response to trauma is this, you should be coping right now about how to handle it. You'd be, I should be doing this better. Well, you're doing as best you can. Just like everything else, to do it better, you've got to have basically the training, the understanding, the learning part of it, right? So that's what, so that's why what makes it, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Everybody experiences it different. It affects everybody different. All right, let me ask you this. If you cut your finger, how many is going to scream, ow? How many of us is going to, how many of us is going to kick the wall and slam things around and, some of those, everybody does something different, right? I'm looking at it around and everybody's nodding when I say something. But guess what? Everybody's got a cut finger. But everybody responded to it differently. And that's what this stuff is. When something happens to us, whatever one of those abnormal situations happens to it, we respond differently. And how we respond is how we respond. Nobody can tell us, well, you should be doing it this way or you shouldn't be doing it. No, that may or may not work for them. It's going to be different for you. So that's what we're going to do about it. Because out of one thing that's kind of in all that and kind of brings it back down to a normal thing is as over 1,000 different therapies are designed to help those who have experienced trauma, and every one of them involves some type of talk therapy. And everybody in here just went, oh no, he's going to want us to talk about our problems. No, that's not it. But it involves you being able to open up about it to someone to share, whether it's verbally or you write it down, okay? So we're going to start this process at a very low level. You thought I said level, didn't you? I'll invent words, just so y'all know, if y'all hadn't been around me, I'll invent words, they happen. So if you happen to hear one of them, write it down because that's a treasure to keep, okay? So on page 8 in your field guides, you'll see some lines there. And it has to do with trauma you have experienced. Write down something very brief in those things, whether it's one thing, two things, three things, whatever. What has caused you some trauma in your life? It could be a bad car accident. It could be losing a loved one. It could be something from childhood abuse. Write those down on those lines. Something you experienced that's caused trauma in your life. Remember, these are your books. We're not taking them up and grading them. This is for you. This is for you to be able to write down. This is for you to be able to go back and reflect on. So what is it? What is it? I'll just say, one of the traumas in my life was when our son was in a bad car accident. And he was really, really close to not being here. That's pretty much a traumatic experience that we both have had. And it could be anything. Anybody else got something they want to share one of their experiences?
We lost a lot of time with our grandchild because of COVID and his medical condition.
Because of COVID, lost time with family members. Yeah, that's a big deal. Yes, ma'am.
Mine's COVID, and also my family. It was bad enough me having it, but my family having it at the same time. That was very, very scary.
Yeah, when your family's sick with the COVID and you can't help them because you're sick too. You can't do mama, be mama. Yes, ma'am.
Unexpected death of Brian and Christmas.
Yeah, the unexpected death of your children. Yeah. So you see, there's a blend of things across the room in here. Everybody's experienced something. And you may be thinking right now, I'm broken beyond repair. This will never get any better. But guess what? It may take some time to heal, but that's okay. It's there for us to be able to heal. And they're not broken beyond repair. Nothing's broken beyond the repair of it. The thing is, trauma doesn't discriminate. You heard this around the room. They don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, man, woman, if you're a Christian, atheist. Trauma don't care. It happens to us all. And it can touch us at any time. It can be a part of where it's just one defining moment. One thing just happened, bam, and your whole world's rocked. It may be a series of smaller things that start piling up, and all of a sudden you realize, I'm struggling. And so with all that, that's what happens. It could be years of abuse or neglect. It could be any of those things we read earlier. When I said you fill in the blank, it could be any of those things. But here's the thing. Trauma impacts the whole of us. Our minds, our bodies, our souls, and our spirits. Y'all agree with that? It gets us all. It gets all of us. Time alone won't heal it. Faith alone won't fix it. Medicine alone won't mend it. And living a life alone will only make it worse. The trauma didn't break you. It's not broken beyond repair. On page 9, you'll see the thing that says, you are not broken, you are wounded, and wounds can heal if proper steps are taken. You are not broken, you are wounded, and wounds can heal if proper steps are taken. If you cut your finger, how do you fix it? Maybe some Neosporin and a Band-Aid? And let the healing process start, right? But it's got to start. If you leave it alone, what happens to it? It can get infected, and get worse and worse and worse. It very well could. The wounds of trauma don't break us, but they do change us. So how has trauma changed you? How do you think, on page 9, you'll see that thing, it says, there's a little answer placed in there. How do you think trauma has changed you? It's changed us all, whether we really realize it or not. How has it changed you? Just take a moment and write down in those little blanks right there. How do you think that trauma changed you? As we're moving forward, you'll see on the next page, after you get through there, I'm not going to go too fast so everybody kind of catch up. You see a thing called ground rules, okay? And this is very, very important, okay? This is that part where you go, what do you mean ground rules? We got rules in here? And you see the first one, it says confidentiality. What we share in this room stays in this room. I'm not going to call out names. If you share something, most of the time what you say out there, this doesn't pick up, okay? But what we hear and share in here stays in here. It's between us. We're the family now, okay? We're the family that has come together and going, hey, we're going to do this good. We're going to do it better. You see the next thing, it says community first, but mine says course second. The community first part of it is we're all in here as a family, which means that important part of getting to know each other as, either before or after, the class, all of those things. This is for us. This is for us as a whole in here. So that's the part of being able to do that. No judgment or comparison. What that means is we're not going to sit here and go, oh, it don't, that sounds like, that shouldn't have been as bad for that person, or, that was better for this one, mine was worse than theirs, or theirs was worse than mine, or all that kind of stuff. It's no judgment. And what they've gone through is what they've gone through. What you've gone through is what you've gone through. So that part is what it is. It's, hey, we're all in this together. Faith. The way this Reboot course is designed to help everybody out there in the whole world, we all realize most of it, everybody in here is of the Christian faith, right? We're all part of it. We all understand that. Some avenues and some places, everybody in there is not like that. But guess what? That's okay. Like Jason and I tell them at those courses we go to, where we have the first responder community coming, they're not all like, us or them. We're not like them. But guess what? We're all in this together. So if you have all the faith in the world or no faith, it's okay. So that's why, Reboot is a Christian-based course, but it's not necessarily a specific church, falls up under that part of it, okay? So, we'll go with that. And then the next one, it says lead with grace, not advice. We ever had anybody tell us what you need to do is this when you're going through something? Don't worry about that. If you'll just do this, it'll all be fine. No, what we need to do is lead with grace, going, you know what? Sounds like you're going through something. I don't know if it will work for you, but this is what has helped me when I felt like I've gone through a similar situation. And just give it to them that way. I'll just take a couple of these pills right here. They'll make you feel better. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. It always is fine. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go ahead and say it out loud. Larry can edit it if he wants to, but I'm going to say it. God's never going to give you more than you can handle. You'll be good. At that point, you're probably struggling to come up to the bottom of the valley, right? You're probably at that point trying to reach up and just get to the bottom of that valley. And yeah, we might know that, but at that particular moment, it's not those encouraging words you need. You just need that helping hand, and sometimes nothing said. But it's something, hey, this helped me. It might help you. Instead of telling somebody this is what you need. So with that said, this Reboot series is not going to be in replacement for counseling or therapy or anything like that. It's not that. It's not a session where at the end of the day, we sit here and we circle up our chairs and we start singing Kumbaya and all those kind of things, It's not that. It's a series designed to give you the help you need. We come in here for regular Sunday school over maybe a book in the Bible or a chapter or a few verses. We take that and the teacher gets up here and explains what those verses are and how they could help you, right? That's training you in your spiritual life. This right here is training you how to help through that trauma that's affecting your whole body. Not only your spirituality, but, what it mentioned, why you physically, you're mentally, all those things is here to help that. So this is basically training. Yes, you will hear Bible in this, but at the same time, you will hear how the real works of it, do happen. We got to finish what we start, okay? You might come in here today and going, well, I don't know what I was expecting, but I don't know if this is it. Let's finish what we start. Each chapter, each week is another thing that helps lighten that load that's back there on those shelves. This is one more truckload to the Goodwill, if you will, each chapter. Each one of these will help that. But guess what it's going to take? It's going to take some intentionality into it. You'll hear that word used a lot during this series. We've got to be intentional about what's happening. Right now you might be feeling a little overwhelmed or scared, angry, anxious, and any word you want to put there, and that's okay. You might do that just because of this class in itself. What am I there for? It might be something that you've experienced out there in your life, and it's got you in that moment of, what am I doing? What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? So, you're sitting there, I just want to make it better. But here's the thing. We instantly returning to our pre-traumatized self would be a cause for concern. If all of a sudden you experience something traumatic, Then all of a sudden, a few days later, you're acting and everybody sees you like you were before that event happened. Wouldn't you say that would be a little strange, abnormal? Because, wait a minute, they didn't deal with that. They didn't deal with that death like they spoke to. They didn't deal with that car accident of their, close friend or family member, whatever you fill in the blank. You're sitting there going, and they're acting like everything's fine. Guess what they just did? They shoved a lot of stuff back on that shelf, shut the door, and going, it'll never come out if I just shut that door. It's like this. If you cut that finger, you expect it to do what? Bleed? We expect it to bleed. So when you've engaged in, that trauma has come upon you, you expect it to cause you some issues. Ever how they affect you, you expect that. It's like going to the doctor and they say, here's 14 days of antibiotics. Take them. Take them all. We usually take them how long? Until we start feeling better, right? About maybe 5, 6, 7 days in, I feel better. I'm going to put these back on the shelf the next time I feel bad. Okay? So we get to that point and, you got, okay, I'm good. I feel all right. And you go on. Well, guess what normally happens after that point? Kind of relapses on you, doesn't it? It comes back up, and sometimes it can come back harder and heavier than it was to start with. And so that's what you have to do is do that. So just like half of that prescription won't necessarily heal that whatever you got. If you just go to 2 or 3 of these, and I'm just saying it like this, even if you have to miss a day, pick it up online, pick it up, through live stream, because each one of these chapters is that next pill that's going to could totally heal you. Okay? Don't go through, 5 or 6 weeks and going, I feel better. I think everything's okay now. You're probably asking for it at that point because you just got enough just to get you, just like we take those pills, those antibiotics, just to make you feel better. Then all of a sudden, boom, that shelf comes crashing back down. All right. So we're going to do this. Healing from trauma isn't one of those things we see on HDTV, the house flipping things. Anybody ever watch those? And we watch them go in there and they take a picture of the house before, then they take a picture of some of the stuff happening in the middle. Then at the end they got the big reveal and everything's changed, and then they show a picture of the new and the old, new and the old. They don't show you all that stuff. They don't show you all that stuff in the middle that's, they got in there thinking that it was going to work one way, and they had to totally change it around and do something different. Where they ripped out that, bathroom and all of a sudden the plumbing and the floor's gone or whatever. They didn't show you all that part. That's what we got to do. We've got to walk every step to fix those things. So at the other side of it, everything is okay. But here's the thing. Healing from trauma looks less like a quick fix and more like helping someone, rebuild parts of their life brick by brick, fixing all those things. Healing from trauma won't bring you back to your pre-traumatized self, because what's always there? Scars, memories, blemishes. We always have those, right? They will always be there to remind you of what you've overcome, and they will serve as a testimony of what God has done in your life. Okay? Us, when I say us, I know Jason's not here, but I can speak for him because I've heard him talk about this and we've talked about this. What we've seen is how God can do that. It wasn't just by happenstance that we go, oh, there's a book, let's teach this in Sunday school. No, it was through understanding and study going, there's some folks that need that. Just in Wednesday night, some of y'all that might have been up there then, I looked around and just a little bit of stuff I knew about some folks. This would have been a place for them to help them. I wish we could do it for the whole county, the whole state. Everybody's dealt with stuff. And if we can get to the end and see how God has helped us through it, to get us back to where, yeah, you can remember those memories, but they're not going to hurt as bad. You can open up that closet door and look at those now almost bare shelves and go, okay, I got rid of that stuff. Instead of every time you walk by that door, you do like this because you're afraid it's going to jump out on you. And we'll learn about that stuff too. But what we're going to do, you'll see toward the end of your, in this chapter, you'll see something called the midweek check-in. And it says on there, see page 3 for instructions. Well, on the PDF format that they send out for these books, it didn't have page 3, okay? And that's why I wanted everybody to write down their phone numbers and emails and whatever. I'm going to send you that information, okay? Because in this, they have through the Reboot Corporation and company, whatever you want to call them, they have little check-ins. Now, some of it, they want to give you as much information as possible, so they will. But I want to make sure that you're getting everything you need. So that's why, before I just say, hey, go do this, I want to make sure that we get what we need for, every step. So you'll see that, so we won't mention that as much. But your homework. You'll see that in there. And it says on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 means where you have no hope whatsoever, and 10 means you are completely positive how confident you are that you can and will experience healing from your trauma. Circle a number. And it don't matter, this is your book. You can circle whatever number you want. You can make it be a 4.5 and you can circle that if you want. This is your book. You make it be what you need it to be. And then think about what could happen to make you bump that number up a little higher. What do you think that will happen over this series that would make it be that way? Could it be that you experience fewer symptoms or have better relationships? So do that. Put circle or whatever that right there in that. And that way you're able to know, hey, this is where I'm growing. This is, each week you might be able to say that. You might be able to bump it up a notch next week and be able to bump it up one after the other. But in that, that's where you know the healing is actually happening. Okay? We go to Sunday school, we go to church to get healing and get fed and to make our spirit grow, right? We want to get those things to make us spiritually stronger, okay? This is tied into that. You can't grow up there if you still got stuff piled in on your shelves. It's a reality. And we may be been through processes like that. So you got to be able to do that. So remember this in this. You saw that at the beginning, and I'm trying to find it in mine. Sorry. All these pages look together. All right. You saw in your book, let me just go over here. This right here. It says Reboot Truth Number 1. You remember seeing that in your book? Right there at the beginning? That's something you can look at and kind of remind yourself. Trauma didn't break you. You aren't broken. You're wounded. And wounds can heal if proper steps are taken. And that's what you have to remind yourself. I'm not broken. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be able to make it through and make this stuff work. I'm going to be able to get past this. And as you go throughout this week, I'm sure, because I know you will, you'll think about that sound and that thought of those closet shelves falling. Because everybody pretty much has maybe experienced that sometime in their life, if you've done it. And you know what that sounds like. And you go, okay, I don't want to hear that sound. I don't want to see that mess. So I'm going to do what it takes to clean out that closet. And sometimes it takes some doing. It takes a little time, takes some effort, takes some intentionality, is what you'll hear. So as we move forward, next week, we'll learn about breaking my default response to trauma, and we all have one. And as you read them, you'll probably take those and you'll kind of glance to see what's ahead. Don't worry about some of the things you see. You go, one part in there, and you'll go, share my story. What is that? I'm not doing that. That's okay. We're not getting, some of those things we're working around and working through, and we're going to do. We're going, we may move a chapter here or there. So we're going to take them 1 week at a time. And if something happens, you're not able to be here because of work, it's going to be on live stream. You know, you got to carry your book with you and sit there and do it if you can, or go back and watch it, you know, through the Faith website. And all those things are there for you to use. Any questions? Anybody got anything? Any add-ons? I'm excited. I really, really, really am. This might sound like doom and gloom over the trauma I experienced, but I've seen it where it's not that. I've seen it where it has become that healing on the backside, you know, and dealing with the first responders, you know, in the community. And it can be there. Okay? Lord, thank you for this time together. God, I pray, God, that you'll be with each and every person represented here today and every family, and God, just walk with them. God, just as they're taking in what they've heard this morning, I pray, God, that you'll just help them start applying it to their lives. Help them start seeing those things. Help them be able to look back and go, okay, let me write that trauma part down. Now let me write down how I hope to see it fixed. And acknowledging it and seeing it and working through it is what's going to make it happen. And that's what we're here to do. God, you've led us through a lot, God. We've been through a lot. I know some families in here that have been through some very, very traumatic and tragic, you know, events. But God, I know you can heal all of those. You always have, and that's all we can look back, God, knowing that how you always have done that and knowing that you always will do that. And I pray now, Lord, that you'll continue to bless us, continue to walk with us, continue to guide us. Be with us today, Lord, and be with the services this morning. God, just speak through the pastor, and God, you know, use the music, God, just to lift our hearts. In Jesus' name, amen. If you didn't...